Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prepper Post News. This is Perrin Lovett, and on behalf of Freedom Prepper, I'm here to tell you all the stuff that's going on worth talking about. On, dear Lord, what does this say it is? It's Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. 2021. Mentally, I'm almost 40 years out of date. But welcome to everybody watching on the YouTube channel. Got some YouTube commentary in a second. Everybody over at FP, Freedom Prepper News, Solars.net, and of course the community. And welcome to all of our friends listening to the podcast. But especially everybody here at YouTube, where we still solicit your valuable comments, which you have been leaving. It's been wonderful. I've noticed a general slowing, not just here, not just in the Prepperverse, but in all things news, commentary, and really internet related since certain events unfolded last month. And that's to be expected. But there's a lot going on. And for instance, the federal government keeps prosecuting criminal cases against American citizens. Monday, let me see, was this Monday? Yeah, Monday, February 1st, I reported to you about one of those cases, the case of the United States Empire versus the Twitter Kid. It involved government, DOJ allegations of election fraud in 2016. That's it's a little over 4 years ago. But I guess our title or something confused the good robots at YouTube, because that one got the old election warning label. U.S. elections. Joe Biden is the president of the United States. Yeah, we know that. He was elected in the historic 2020 election, not the 2016 election. That's when Orange Man was cheated in by Russia and by the Twitter Kid and his conspirators in this government conspiracy theory that I sincerely hope nobody wasted time reading the idiotic complaint, but they reminded us that Biden is president. Of course he is. And they said that this is the part that really alarmed me, YouTube. Susan, I hope you're listening. This is serious. States certify results after ensuring ballots are properly counted and correcting irregularities and errors. You can learn more via the, whatever Pravda source they link to. I sincerely hope you're talking about the very valid 2020 election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Don't forget her. She was the little girl on the bus. Because if you guys are saying that in 2016 all irregularities were corrected and errors were fixed, you're going against the so-called Department of Justice of the United States Empire and the FBI. It almost looks like you're trying to cover up part of the conspiracy that they're alleging under 18 USC 241, a conspiracy theory of the government variety. I would hate to see the artificial person of YouTube Studios Inc., Delaware Corporation, brought in as a, Corporation Doe. Because I read the complaint. It said there were some unknown conspirators. So just be very careful about that. And if that one confused you, oh boy, this is going to be most confusing for the low IQ YouTube bots. Because today we're talking about enemies, foreign and domestic, all enemies, including the domestic ones. And we're talking about massive allegations of massive fraud in the 2020 presidential election in Myanmar, which is also known as Burma. Got a story here. It's a link to a couple of stories. And there's a, we're on the, I don't mean to be, but everywhere I look, I see this World Economic Forum. Everywhere I look, there's one of these stories has a picture of some hag who was arrested for fraud in Myanmar, and she's sitting under the banner of the World Economic Forum. What are the odds? The military in Burma, the Burmese military, has arrested the newly elected liberal government on allegations of just enormous voter fraud. And they have gone as far as to military leaders who claim the vote was fraudulent have now declared a year-long state of emergency, transferred all power to Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, to the general, appointed Vice President. Appointed the Vice President, a former general with a name, as acting president, and they've closed all the banks until further notice. In other words, these guys took their oath to their constitution and to the people that they serve very seriously. When they saw irregularities that were not corrected by civil officials, they stepped in and did the right thing. Now, thank God we don't have these problems in the United States where, hang on a second, where we are reliably informed that results are certified, ensuring ballots are properly counted and correcting irregularities and blah, blah. I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. But anyway, take a look at that. And it is nice that in certain countries you do have national leaders, even in the military, that are willing to do what they have to do to enforce the rule of law. It's amazing. Law and politics. Some say we're drifting away from that in America, and not just Joe Biden's America. This is a decades-old problem. One of the great prepper topics, one of the scare tactics that some people use, I threaten to use it with a smirk and a wink, is gun control. We have gun control in America. We have a lot of gun control. For the past 100 in New York started. You know, when gun control had two starts. In the beginning, gun control started in the South because the plantation owners did not want their slaves to obtain arms, but for obvious reasons. They had gun control against slaves. And they've just expanded on that the past 200 years. But in New York City, they passed the first outright mass gun control laws at the end of the 19th century. Tammany Hall, Boss Tweed, more election fraud. And they passed it to crack down on people carrying concealed pistols. Why? Well, because too many of Tweed's voters, who were pickpockets and thieves, were getting repelled by armed citizens. So you can't have that. We've got, and then we had the Gun Control Act, the Firearms Act, FOPA. Thank you, Reagan, and on and on and on. It's not as bad as it is in other places like Saudi Arabia or North Korea, but in terms of the Second Amendment, it's pretty darn bad. They want to make it worse. Here you go, preppers. Here's the one you've been waiting on. It's this Congress 2021 House Resolution HR 127. And I've got this is from Armstrong Economics, points this out. It's not gun control. It's just gun registration. These people, Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat of Texas, wants you to register all of your guns and your ammunition, so that just so they'll know who has them and where they are when they do come to forcibly confiscate them. And remember, in other countries like in Croatia, when they were doing this 35 years ago, they had registration, just like HR 127. Some people registered their guns, other people, lost their guns or didn't have any guns. Like me, I don't have any guns. But if you had guns and you registered them, one day a police officer showed up, and he was very nice, and he knocked at your door and said, "I understand you've got some guns. I'm here to collect them." And the people would say, no, I don't have any guns, or no, you can't have them, or I'm not talking to you, and they'd close the door, and the police officer would politely say thank you for your time, and he would run to a safe distance, and then the army across the street with a tank would destroy the house, the owner, and all the guns. Not saying that could happen here. I mean, this isn't Myanmar. We don't have odd things happening here because, again, we have states certifying some bullshit and some irregularities, and I really do. I have some nice bridges. I got a quitclaim deed ready to go, cheap. So Sheila Jackson Lee is giving us the very American sounding. I can't quite read this. It's a PDF. It's blurred. Sharika Firearms Licensing and Registration Act. I doubt it will pass this year. I imagine they will try to get something along those lines. It's coming. It's coming. We've had some discussions on the community about guns. Actually, not really about guns. About of all things, moose and duck hunting. High flying, fast moving ducks. I promised some information about things such as what's in the Shriek and Seize bill from Miss Jackson Lee. Oh God. But anyway, things like that. The Z-Man wrote a great column at Taki's Mag about the end of civic nationalism. Civic nationalism was this great sounding idea cherished by conservatives throughout the 20th century and now by neocon communist plants in the 21st century, that anyone, Reagan said anyone can come to America and become an American. That it totally removes the people element from the nations, which is totally wrong. And the events of the past 6 months have completely laid that bare. And the Z-Man talks about the death of civic nationalism. As an ideology, it's as discredited as liberalism or conservatism or libertarianism or any of these other fake. It's nationalism versus globalism is what it is. It's good versus evil. However, as dead as it is, you still have a lot of people, and I don't want to pick on the boomers because I know a lot of my Gen Z folks who still, cling to that. I mean, it's understandable. You grew up with it, but a lot of people on the right just don't get it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But eventually you're going to have to. You're going to have to because, as next story, Edward Dutton, great English psychologist and psychometrist, points out, Joe Biden's correct. This is the dark winter. This is America's winter in the cycle of the state sense. Things are moving now that can't be changed. All these laws I talk about, law doesn't matter. Politics doesn't matter. Things are happening now that are historic. They really are historic. We live in interesting times, and we're lucky to be in these times. He points out that historically, one absolute, the sign that your, call it what you will, your republic, your liberal democracy, your dictatorship, any kind of government, post-Neolithic modern government is collapsing is when you have a mob or a protest or a group of citizens who storm the Capitol. Specifically, in the short term, the events at the U.S. Capitol betoken the end of functioning democracy in America. Trust levels and intelligence, he's a psychometrist, have now fallen too low for it to work anymore, and they will continue to fall. Chaos and perhaps some form of authoritarian rule lies ahead. Some would argue that the chaos and possibly even authoritarianism is already upon us. He also talks about, it's really worth reading, I've got it linked up with everything else at freedomprepper.com. He talks about the good people, us, the heritage Americans, the preppers, preparing and riding out the storm. And he says that, you may have, I'm still working on the series about this. We've got time. We're just a little overwhelmed and slow right now. There's going to be a breakup of some kind. It has to be. I mean, there already has been. It's just going to be codified. And you may have, different states with different peoples and ideologies, or you may have little pockets, little monastic communities, the monastic option. And these little communities or sovereign states will be surrounded by third world chaos. And we're going to have to figure out how to conquer and overcome. And we will. Because we cannot be beaten. Back to the authoritarianism. It's not here yet. Nobody's trying. I mean, yeah, they're trying to take your guns, and in other countries they're rigging elections. Not here, thank God. But it's not bad yet. It's not like we have a small group of foreigners who've taken control of the government, the media, and everything else. Oh wait, yeah. Well, okay. Just one example from I've got a story here. This is just typical. Joe Biden, who is the president, who operates out of the White House in Washington, D.C., for our democracy and all that jive, appointed some woman to something, some security. It doesn't, none of this stuff really matters. She's she's in the executive branch, something to do with security, and NBC reported that she had given $500,000 to AIPAC, the American Israeli Political Action Committee, that takes money from Americans for Israel. And somebody pointed out that might be a conflict of interest, especially with somebody supposed to be in charge of security in one of those countries, the donor country. And AIPAC did not like that, and NBC yanked the story. Mother Jones did not, by the way. But this is not to say that anybody has any kind of undue influence. That's, if you're imagining that, you're bad. It's not bad yet. It's not really bad at all. We're not ruled over by, small groups or giant satanic fake people corporations that were only designed to cheat liability. I mean, well, okay, we are. Big tech is steaming ahead with this COVID passport thing. Like it or not, I get the story there. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, even though, here's a reminder. Here's a reminder about medical things. If somebody comes up with a new drug and the drug is not fully approved, if it is rammed through, say at warp speed, and it's still an experimental drug, under Title 42 of the U.S. Code, it cannot be mandated. No one can mandate you take that. It has to be voluntarily taken because it's technically still in the mass trial. Normally they start out with rats and monkeys. Now it's with, not you, but the people next door probably are participating like rats or monkeys in this experiment. But you can't mandate it. And the Children's Health Defense League sent a stern letter to the California Board of Education because they're kind of hinting around that, hey, we got to get the schools open back up so we can keep torturing these poor children. We'll just mandate this, they get the vaccine for some kind of, I don't know, it's some kind of drug, new drug, it's experimental. And they were reminded that, no, you can't do that. It's illegal. And if you do that, by the way, these drug manufacturers, these drug dealers, these international drug dealer corporations that control America and the world, they get liability. You don't. If you violate the law, you can be held responsible, and you will. And they've already threatened to sue. Look for that law to get changed quick, because we're moving into strange territory led by science. You can always trust science. When he was barely campaigning for president, Joe Biden, I think he had one event and he did a debate, and that was it. Biggest electoral landslide in history. Amazing. The proof that democracy works. But Joe Biden said he trusts science, and he probably should not, because science is less reliable than a coin toss, and there are studies to back this up. One giveaway is that let's use medical science as a barometer. What is a crazy conspiracy theory today will be reliable science tomorrow. And I've got a great story here linked to a medical study, I think in the Journal of the American Fraud Association, whatever it is. Hydrochloroquine and zinc. About a year ago, preppers were saying, hey, wait a minute, there's a new disease. There are always diseases. We've got this stuff called hydrochloroquine. The president talked about it back then. Zinc, all these, established remedies are very good at curing this stuff or totally preventing it. And science came down and said, absolutely not. That's a conspiracy theory. you better listen to the World Health Organization and the CDC. YouTube is on that. Thank you, YouTube. Now, the World Health Organization, the CDC, Tony Fauci, they've all changed over. Now they've got a published, peer-reviewed medical study that says, hey, wait a minute, there's this stuff called hydrochloroquine and zinc that, yeah. The last word of the day, friends, is survival. And I want to go back to the YouTube, the Freedom Prepper YouTube. But first, I found this great Toby Cowan article over at the Organic Prepper. For my money, just the best prepper site there is, about knowing yourself, your experience, your own knowledge, and your equipment, and testing all of that out before stuff hits the fan. And he starts off by saying that, hey, where he is, they just, they're in the middle of a big winter storm, or they just had one. And, it's times like that that kind of poke you and remind you, hey, you might have to survive something. Are you ready? So take inventory of where you are with all of this. And maybe it's time to test yourself. Maybe you throw the circuit breaker. Can you live without electricity for a week? If it's snowing, do what you normally do in the bright sunshine out in the snow, adverse weather. I used to shoot, trap, and skeet. I used to do a lot of stuff. I was pretty good with the over and under. And of course you want, nice sunny room temperature for doing that, because it just makes things nice. But if it's 33 degrees and threatening to sleet, that's a great time to go out shooting too, because, it's difficult, and it's good to practice with things that are difficult. It's also good to watch Freedom Prepper videos that don't involve some guy sitting here babbling about selling you a bridge cheap. I mean, cheap. If you want a bridge, it's 6 lanes. It's big bridge, gonna last forever. Quit claim, ready for you. Just let me know. Tony Fauci, I think, has already tried to make an offer. But we have other stuff. I'll just run through some of the more recent ones. A little video about cooking in the winter with no power. There we go again. Parts of this country, not where I live, get a lot of snow and can knock out the power. Let a tree limb fall and half the grid goes down, maybe for a week. How do you cook? Well, you probably have a backup and a backup to the backup. Now would be a great time to make sure that they work, and we've got some simple, fun instructions on how to do that. We've also got reminders about medical supplies to stock up on. Do this now before, don't wait until it's too late. And we've got, 33 cheap survival items, just things to stockpile now. All of this from the past week. And over at the community, we have a new member who just put up some prepper posters, just, a bug out bag and things that go in the bug out bag. 9 out of 10 of you probably already have that, but it's always good to get a refresher and a reminder, because if you use up your paracord and you forget about it, the next time you go to get it, it won't be there. Just remember. And remember to come back tomorrow, which my calendar tells me will be Thursday already. I hope you guys have had a great Wednesday. Hope it's the rest of the day is fantastic. Great hump day for you. We'll be back here tomorrow with more exciting news that hopefully will not involve any kind of medical event, any kind of government action. Well, it will. But let me know about the bridge. It's dirt cheap, ready to go. I'll see you guys tomorrow.